You're at work. You need your colleague to help you with something. So you walk up to them and say, "Can you help me?" They say yes, but something feels off. They seem a little annoyed. You don't know why.
Here's what happened. You weren't rude exactly, but you weren't polite either. And the fix is so simple. Just one word. Could or would.
I learned this the hard way. I was in my first month at an office in London, and I kept saying to my manager, "Can you check this? Can you send me that file?" She never said anything, but after a few weeks, my coworker pulled me aside and said, "You might want to say, 'could you?' instead of 'can you?' It sounds more professional." I was so embarrassed.
And that's exactly what we're fixing today. We're teaching you the simple, practical way to use would and could in real conversations. No confusing grammar rules, no first conditional, second conditional, third conditional nonsense. Just four situations you'll actually use.
I'm Olivia.
And I'm Paul. Welcome to English Together. Okay, so let's talk about why this matters. Would and could are two of the most powerful words in English because they make you sound polite, professional, and fluent. But here's the problem. Most English courses teach them through complicated grammar. First conditional, second conditional, third conditional.
Ugh, stop. I'm getting flashbacks to my grammar textbook.
Exactly, and that approach confuses people. So today, we're throwing out the grammar rules and teaching you something much simpler. We call it the four-situation method.
Ooh, I like this already.
Here's how it works. Instead of memorizing grammar rules, you just need to recognize four real-life situations. Situation 1, being polite, when you're making requests or offering help. Situation 2, giving advice, when you're making suggestions. Situation 3, dreaming big, when you're talking about imaginary or hypothetical situations. Situation 4, maybe not, when you're talking about possibilities. In the next 17 minutes, you'll learn exactly which phrases to use in each situation, and you'll understand the difference between would and could without memorizing a single grammar rule.
And trust me, by the end, you'll actually feel confident using these words. They're not as scary as they seem.
All right, let's start with situation 1, being polite. This is where most learners make mistakes because they use can when they should use could or would.
Right, like my example at the beginning. Can you help me versus could you help me?
Exactly. Both are grammatically correct, but could you and would you sound much more polite and professional. Here's the simple rule. When you're asking someone to do something, use could you or would you. Listen to the difference. Can you send me that report? This sounds direct, maybe a little demanding. Could you send me that report? This sounds polite, professional. Would you send me that report? This sounds very polite, maybe even formal.
So, what's the difference between could you and would you?
Great question. Honestly, they're almost the same in this context. Could you focuses on ability. Are you able to do this? Would you focuses on willingness. Are you willing to do this? But in real conversations, native speakers use them interchangeably for polite requests.
Okay, so I can use either one and sound polite.
Exactly. Here are some more examples you can use right away. Could you please call me back? Would you mind helping me with this? Could you repeat that, please? Would you like some coffee?
Oh, wait. Would you like? That's a different use, right?
Yes. When you're offering something to someone, we use would you like. For example, would you like some water? Would you like me to help you? Would you like to join us for lunch?
So, would you like is for offers, and could you or would you is for requests.
Perfect. And here's the confidence building part. There's absolutely no shame in asking politely. In English-speaking cultures, using could and would doesn't make you sound weak or uncertain. It makes you sound respectful and professional. Confident speakers ask politely all the time.
I wish I'd known that in my first month at that job.
All right, let's move to situation 2, giving advice. This is where could really shines. When you want to give someone a suggestion, but you don't want to sound bossy or controlling, use you could.
Ooh, I love this. So instead of saying, "you should do this," which can sound kind of pushy, you say, "you could do this," which sounds gentle and optional. Let me give you an example.
Imagine your friend is stressed about work.
Compare these. You should take a break. Sounds like a command. You could take a break? Sounds like a friendly suggestion.
That's such a small change, but it makes a huge difference.
Exactly. Here are more phrases for giving advice with could. You could try calling them. You could ask your manager for help. We could meet on Friday instead. You could think about it and let me know.
I noticed you said we could in one of those examples. So you can use could for suggestions about yourself too?
Yes, we could or I could works great when you're suggesting something for a group or offering to do something yourself. Like, I could pick you up at 7. We could go to that new restaurant.
This is so useful. I always felt awkward giving suggestions in English because I didn't want to sound rude.
And that's the beauty of could for advice. It never sounds rude. It sounds helpful and respectful.
Okay, what's situation 3?
Situation 3 is dreaming big, talking about imaginary or hypothetical situations. This is where would is your best friend. When you're imagining something that's not real right now, use would.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, let's say someone asks you, what would you do if you won the lottery? You'd answer with would. I would buy a house. I would travel around the world. I would quit my job.
So, would is for imaginary situations that aren't happening right now.
Exactly, and this is super common in everyday conversation. Here are more examples. I would love to visit Japan someday. What would you do in my situation? I would never say that to my boss. Where would you live if you could live anywhere?
Oh, so when people ask those fun hypothetical questions like, where would you live or what would you do, they're using would because it's imaginary.
Perfect. You've got it. And here's a personal story. When I was learning Spanish, I was living in Mexico, and I was talking to my host family about my dreams. I kept saying, I want to travel to South America. I want to learn Portuguese. I want to start a business. And my host dad said, in Spanish, we'd say, I would like to, or I would love to for dreams. It sounds more thoughtful, less demanding.
Oh, that's interesting. So even the culture around would is about being softer and more reflective.
Exactly. And it's the same in English. I would love to sounds more polite and dreamy than I want to. Compare I want to learn French. That's direct, factual. I would love to learn French is polite and dreamy.
I like that. It sounds more elegant, I guess.
Yes. And here's the thing. Even native speakers use would more than want in polite or professional situations. It's not just for learners. It's how confident English speakers communicate.
Okay, pause for 1 second. We've just given you a ton of phrases. But here's the thing. You need to practice saying them out loud, or they won't come naturally in real conversations.
So right now, we're going to practice 3 phrases together. Say them out loud even if you're alone. Ready?
First phrase, could you help me with this? Say it out loud. Go ahead.
Second phrase, you could try calling them. Say it.
Last one, I would love to visit Japan. Say it out loud right now.
Did you do it? If you said all 3 phrases out loud, you're already ahead of 90% of learners. That's how you build muscle memory. That's how these phrases become automatic.
All right, let's keep going.
So we've covered being polite, giving advice, and dreaming big. Now let's talk about situation 4. Maybe, maybe not. This is when you're talking about possibilities, things that might happen, things that are uncertain, and for this, we use could.
So, could is for things that are possible but not certain.
Exactly. Let me give you some examples. It could rain tomorrow. It's possible, but we don't know for sure. That could be a problem. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't. She could be stuck in traffic. We're guessing. It's a possibility.
So, it's like saying maybe but in a more natural way?
Yes, instead of saying, maybe it will rain tomorrow, native speakers often say, it could rain tomorrow.
It sounds more fluent.
I love that. Give me more examples.
Sure. This could take a few hours. You could be right. That could work. It could be difficult, but let's try.
What about would for possibilities? Can you use that?
Great question. Would is less common for possibilities because would implies a more definite condition. For example, it would rain if there were clouds. This is conditional, based on a specific situation. It could rain. This is just a general possibility. So for most everyday possibilities, stick with could.
Okay, that makes sense. Could for maybe, would for imaginary.
Now let's talk about one more thing. Mixing would and could in the same sentence. This happens a lot in natural conversation.
Ooh, like what?
Like this. If I had more time, I would learn piano, but I could also just take online lessons on weekends.
So would for the imaginary situation, if I had more time, and could for the possible solution?
Exactly. Or another example. I would love to go to the party, but I could be busy that day.
I would love for the wish, could be busy for the possibility.
You're nailing this, and here's a personal story. When I first started teaching English, I had a student from Korea who was terrified of using would and could because she thought she'd mess up the grammar. So she avoided them completely. But then one day, she was in a meeting at work, and her boss asked her, "What do you think we should do?" And she froze. She wanted to say, "We could try marketing on social media." But instead, she just said, "Maybe social media?" and felt so awkward afterward.
Oh no.
But the thing is, she knew the phrase. She just didn't trust herself to use it. And that's what I want to say to you. Never put yourself down for not knowing this perfectly. Even trying to use would and could shows you're engaged and learning. Confident learners make mistakes. Shy learners stay silent.
That's so true. I think a lot of learners are afraid of sounding stupid, but actually, asking questions and trying new phrases is what makes you sound smart.
All right, we're about 15 minutes in, and I want to tell you something. We've taught over 60,000 students these exact phrases. And you know what they tell us? They say that learning would and could was the moment they started sounding more polite and professional in English. Not because the grammar is complicated, but because they finally understood when to use these words in real life.
And that's what the four situation method does. It takes the fear out of conditionals and makes it practical.
Exactly. So if you're still watching, you're doing amazing. Let's recap everything so you can actually remember this.
Okay, here's your complete guide to the four situation method for would and could. Situation 1, being polite. Use could you or would you for polite requests. Could you send me that file? Would you help me with this? Could you please repeat that? Use would you like for polite offers. Would you like some coffee? Would you like me to call you back?
And remember, using these doesn't make you sound weak. It makes you sound professional.
Situation 2, giving advice. Use you could for gentle suggestions. You could try calling them. You could take a break. We could meet on Friday instead.
This one's my favorite because it never sounds bossy. Situation 3, dreaming big. Use would for imaginary or hypothetical situations. I would love to visit Japan. What would you do if you won the lottery? I would buy a house if I had more money. I would never say that.
Would is for things that aren't real right now. Your dreams, your wishes, your imaginary scenarios.
Situation 4, maybe, maybe not. Use could for possibilities. It could rain tomorrow. That could be a problem. This could take a few hours. You could be right.
Could is your word for maybe in a more fluent way.
And here's your homework this week. Use at least 5 of these phrases in real conversations. Start with the simplest ones, could you please, or I would love to, and build from there. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to try.
All right, we covered so much today, and we are so proud of you for sticking with us.
If this lesson helped you, please give it a like right now. It helps other English learners find this lesson. And if you haven't already, subscribe to English Together. We post a new practical English lesson every single week.
Now, here's our question for you. Have you ever had a funny or awkward moment because you used can instead of could, or because you got confused about would? Maybe you accidentally sounded rude in a meeting, or maybe you froze up and couldn't remember which word to use.
I told you about my student who froze in her meeting, and Olivia shared her "Can you check this" disaster with her manager. Now it's your turn. Tell us your story in the comments. We read every single comment and we'll reply to as many as we can. Plus, your story will help other learners feel less alone.
And remember, making mistakes with would and could is totally normal. Even native speakers mix them up sometimes. The fact that you're here learning this means you're serious about improving, and that's what matters.
The four situation method is your guide: being polite, giving advice, dreaming big, and maybe not. Keep it simple, practice out loud, and trust yourself.
Thanks for learning with us today.
See you next week.